Welcome and happy holidays everyone to a very seasonal Amphibious analysis, for we're going to Gundam War in the Pocket, which does take place in December and mentions Christmas, so I count it as a Christmas movie. Well, OVA. Anyways, from the many beautiful mobile suits that show up, today we're going to be looking at the MSM-03C Hygogg. Now, not high as a greeting, or high out its mind, but maybe it could be HY, a Welsh prefix, which emphasizes the prefixed word. What does this mean? Maybe it could just be an emphasized Gogg, a better Gogg, or an ascended Gogg. As for the C, you would think maybe Commander, but Zeon uses an S to signify that. It could be Custom or Kai. Now, C is shown in the MS-06C Zaku early production type, which is an upgraded better version of the A type, and it's also found in the Federation mobile suits, the RGM-79C Jim, or the Jim late type. So it being an upgraded, improved Gogg does fit the name as well. Whatever it stands for, I doubt it stands for canon. So what's the history? Well, Zeon saw the success with the Gogg, and while it did have its problems, being the first of its kind, it was still a favored mobile suit. And with this fancy new thing called the United Maintenance Plan, which for the super abridged, made Zeon use uniform standardized parts, making production and repairs easier. This made Zeon tell Zimmad to give it another go, but with current knowledge of amphibians and improved mobile suit technology, Zimmad decided to build it from the ground up, leading to this marvelous machine. But now for appearance, and it kinda, sorta, not really looks like a Gogg. Different body shape, still has the long arms and stubby legs, but now thinner everywhere, bigger forearms, big piccolo shoulders, and it's now blue instead of the brown and yellow. But unlike the Gogg, the Hygogg is quick on its feet, being able to maneuver quite well for its massive shoulders and stubby legs. And with the arms, when moving about, he kinda uses them not as support, but he places them on the ground like a weird anorexic gorilla. It's odd, he's odd. Like for Amphibious mobile suit standards, he's a real odd guy. And his stance reminds me of something. It took me a little bit to figure it out. I first thought it was like a Monster Hunter Wyvern, but it reminds me of the Cloverfield monster with how it's stanced up in those long arms. Anywho, the Gogg's weapons are still there, they got moved around, a little bit different, and he's got some more toys to play with, but we'll cover that in a second. And how was he overall? Amazing. The Hygogg outshines the Gogg in every single category. With a higher generator output of 2,735 kilowatts, he has more than 1,000 more kilowatts than the Gogg. He uses a different armor material, being titanium alloy ceramite composite versus the super high tensile steel of the Gogg. He's also about 2 meters shorter, and due to the advanced cooling system, he no longer needs to carry large tanks of seawater with him to cool his generator. Due to everything I just mentioned and probably an insane workout plan, the Hygogg at max comes in at a whopping 79.2 tons, compared to the Gogg's at max at 159.4. If you round these numbers off, the Gogg is twice as heavy as the Hygogg. This is a massive jump in weight. And it gets even crazier, the Gogg at empty is still heavier than the Hygogg at max. Zimmad and Zeon really put some work into this guy, and with the United Maintenance Plan, he's now easier to maintain and repair. Now, if you're thinking the jump is too extreme going from Tubby to this guy, you'd be right. But we do have a mobile suit that helps bridge the gap, and that's the Gogg Kai. Little's known about this guy with just as little visuals to work with, but looking at it, we can see the in-between. It still looks like a Gogg, but it's just much thinner. It has bigger forearms like the Hygogg, and especially those shoulders. Plus, if we look at the weapons, which we'll cover in a sec, they have moved to the spots the Hygogg have. But now, let's get on to the equipment and weapons. First, also found on the Gogg E, another amphibian created through the UMP, is an optional, really orange chemical rocket jetpack. Used to get the Hygogg an extra kick, launching him without exhausting his main fuel, great for blasting him out of the water onto land in a flash. This thing also has a neat searchlight on top, plus it can be purged when empty or not in use. As a side note, if UMP kept making amphibious mobile suits, I bet they would also have an option for them as well, or maybe non-amphibious mobile suits could use this for whatever reason, whatever floats your boat. mobile suit. Oh yeah, just to put this in here because I feel like I'll forget if I don't, the Hygogg, like the Gogg, has a cruise mode. And like him, it involves more than just him planking. The Hygogg's legs and arms tuck in, with its shoulder armors folding down, then the head pushes it in and bam, cruise mode. There's not too much more to say about this, but I just do like it. It's just a small little quirk that I find interesting when a mobile suit has to actually transform to get as hydrodynamic as possible. It just visually looks nicer than like the Gogg who just planks when he goes into cruise mode. Next to its weapons, he does keep the same ones that the Gogg has, just kinda different, moved around, then plus some. Instead of the iron nails, we have the vice claws. 4 claws on each arm. They're made for stabbing and slashing, but can now be used as manipulators, giving them a utility benefit. Now, what makes the Hygogg special is due to his longer arms, the strike range can be deceiving, and the angles of attacks can be unorthodox. And while also found in the Gogg E, maybe it's just a visual thing, but the Gogg E looks much thicker, and they look like they're much more used as weapons than as manipulators. While the Hygoggs, it feels like the opposite. They're shown to be thinner, they look like they have more articulation, being able to wrap around a Jim's head. So maybe while both are perfectly fine as weapons, maybe the Hygogg is just more on the manipulator side, just in case you need someone to be able, to touch or hold things during a mission. And he still has his torpedoes, but they're now 4 launchers located in his head area. They can also act as anti-surface or anti-air missiles, giving him variety. Then the most change is his mega particle cannons, or the beam cannons. Instead of the tummy, they took a note from others like the Gogg, and now on the forearms. And with the bendable arms, it allows for a nice area of effect. But that's not all. Due to the advancement of technology, Zeon now has E-caps, which are like Minovsky batteries, allowing his beam cannons to achieve a higher power output and a higher rate of fighter, greatly improving them. Moving on to the new stuff, first is an added pair of machine cannons located on his waist, very reminiscent of that of the Gogg's weapons. These come in an impressive 120mm. This is the same size of the Zaku machine gun's ammunition. And with being double the size of standard head Vulcans, these are an effective and dangerous weapon against mobile suit armor. But like the Gogg, the biggest drawback is you have to face anything you want to shoot. Thankfully, this isn't his main or only range weapon. Due to the beam cannons, this is just an extra cherry on top for his weapons. And honestly, I kind of forget sometimes that the Hygogg has this option. Then finally, as an optional unit, he has a large hand missile. Attached to the end of the Hygogg's arm, it's covered in a waterproof panel, allowing for easier transportation, protection of the explosive, and reduced water resistance when traveling. When fired, the panels come apart. This missile it's a large missile, should be pretty straightforward in what it's used against, anything that you need blown up. Excellent against important objects, be buildings, warehouses, shipping containers, and also works fine against the mobile suits. A +1 extra large missile is always appreciated, and yeah, the Hygogg can deploy with 2 if you really want to. But once used, you're back to normal, fine and simple, but just keep that in mind that you're locked out of your other hand weapons when you have this out, so if you want to deploy with 1, or if you're crazy enough to use 2, just keep that in the back of your head. Now, as a side note, while not shown, maybe other types of missiles can be used. And due to UMP, this could have been an option for later amphibious mobile suits if Zeon deemed this missile unit successful. Now, as a side note that doesn't lead to anything, encasing non-waterproof weapons in a capsule is also shown on the Zezulu. His is much more permanent without it being destroyed upon deployment, and it can bring non-waterproof weapons with it when diving, and deploy them once back on land. But now back on track. It's a nice assortment of weapons, and paired with some strong stats, the Hygogg, while only having a brief appearance, made a name for itself and became a fan favorite. Appearing in the first episode of War in the Pocket, the Cyclops team deployed 3 Hygoggs among others to attack a Fedi base in the North Pole, with the mission to destroy a prototype mobile suit. The Hygogg launched a surprise attack and wreaked havoc, destroying many things from copters, buildings, people, and even took down 3 Gym Core District types, which are overall improved gyms. Definitely not pushovers. Now, how did he 1v3? Could it be due to the Hygogg being that good of a machine? Or Mikhail being that good of a pilot? Or maybe the gym pilots just had a little too much Christmas eggnog the night prior? Or maybe a mix of all the above? Now, sadly, due to limited productions, battle being more space focused, and soon the ending of the war, the Hygogg wouldn't appear again. There was one salvaged in a Unicorn manga which had its beam cannons replaced with Gatling guns. And also the Hygogg would help develop the Kapul. Again, big change, but we don't have anything bridging the two, unlike the Gogg Kai. Now, how'd he get that small and weird looking? Who knows, and that's for a later time. Now, while the Hygogg has no official variants, there's this weird reimagination thing by Kazuichi Kondo, and it's the MSM-03C BIS Hygogg. Now, names aside, because I have no idea what the BIS could stand for, this guy is shown to be much more detailed. The missile unit is smaller, or maybe the arm is just thicker. The backpack looks much bigger, so maybe it's the orange chemical pack built into it, or it's just a bigger backpack. Now, I don't know if this is a reimagination or a variant, just because of the name with the BIS. But besides the visual department and the big backpack, there's nothing else I can really highlight, it just visually looks different. Next, introducing the AMX-008M Gundam Marine type. It appears in the Advance of Zeta reboot manga, and it is a really odd entry. Now, for the skinny, Neo Zeon got and modified a Gundam for underwater purposes, and the 1 year war was the only time when amphibious mobile suits was really popular, so they based off a successful one during that time, and the Hygogg was the one they chose. Or maybe someone over there really liked the Hygogg. Maybe the manufacturers at Neo Zeon wasn't basing this off the Hygogg, but just wanted a good amphibious mobile suit, and unwilling to them, they developed another Hygogg because, well, it's peak design. Anyways, while there's more information, let's stay on topic and keep it about the Hygogg, but maybe we'll cover him in a different time. But I do want to share that he does have a mobile armor mode, and it's a pretty cool looking transformation. Also, there's two versions of this guy, with the custom one having a face much more resembling that of the Hygogg. And finally, every time I look at him, I just feel like he looks like what a full armored Hygogg would be, which is a really cool concept, but like I said, let's get back on track. But now onto Gundam Build Fighters, because we have something interesting, and no, it's not some cool custom Hygogg, which would be neat, but sadly we don't get too much amphibious fan service in that series. But anyways, in episode 12 of Build Fighters, we see a green Hygogg, and this thing has a commander fin, which is extremely unique. Commander fins, which are used on plenty of Zeon's mobile suits, are not shown on the amphibious ones, just due to, well, a handful of reasons, but one of the most important is just how weird looking amphibious mobile suits are. They're not that standard humanoid shape, and they don't have a, well, designated head area to put that fin there. And with things like the Hygogg, it might get in the way of its missiles. But it actually looks pretty nice on the Hygogg, so good for him. Next on the Gundam Build Fighters Try, we get another Hygogg cameo. And the only noteworthy thing is that this Hygogg is in the Gogg's colors. And I can say that he can pull this thing off beautifully. The Hygogg looks amazing in this brown and yellow. You would assume so, but I never thought of it being in those colors, and damn, it looks beautiful. And on that thought, I wonder if the Gogg can pull off the Hygogg's colors. I feel like with its shape and all that blue, it will look like some form of candy egg. Anyways, leaving the build universe onto Gundam Seed, we have the Zeno, which is based off the Hygogg. And looking at the Build Fighters Hygogg with a commander fin, I just find it goofy because the Zeno also looks like a Hygogg with a commander fin. Now, as a crazy fun fact, did you know the Ruby weapon from Final Fantasy VII resembles that of the Hygogg? And also many of the other weapons resemble that of mobile suits or mobile armors. Anywho, let's get back on track. And I do wonder what other mobile suits would look like through the United Maintenance Plan. Maybe in another timeline, like the Hygogg, we get a Hygogg. And as a side note, the Hygogg feels a lot more like a successor than the Hygogg does. I'm not saying it's better or anything, because it isn't, the Hygogg's amazing, but the Gogg looks a lot more similar to the Hygogg. I can see it going from that than the Gogg going from the Hygogg. Also, the Yurik has early concept art alongside the Gogg when the original Gundam was being made. And also, many mobile suits in War in the Pocket were not supposed to be variants but supposed to be retcons. So maybe the Hygogg was supposed to be a retcon of the Gogg, but they then later kept it as a variant just so they didn't get rid of the old designs. But maybe in a different timeline, maybe the Hygogg was supposed to be a standalone mobile suit with a completely different name and have its own story not related to the Gogg. Now, do take all my ramblings with a grain of salt, it's just to get you good old noggin jogging. But like I said, I wonder what would happen if the war kept on going and the United Maintenance Plan got more time to spit out more mobile suits. And I do think the Hygogg is a great mobile suit, and I wonder if it would get a spacefaring or even a landfaring variant, like the Hygogg to the Gashia. Out the bunch, I feel like the Hygogg would make the most sense. I feel like it could make a fine space unit. And this segues into a small tangent. When I was younger, just a wee sloth cupcake, I thought of a Hygogg space version. It would look like a regular Hygogg, but when it flew in space, it would go into its cruise mode except for its arms. Then it could use its arms to stretch out and shoot. And I was pretty proud of myself for this design. But I slowly realized I just described a worse Zeong. Then when I got older, I realized I just described a worse Psycom Zaku. Now, for the figure collectors out there, he does have a high grade, and also a Hobby Damashi anime figure, which I've heard is beautiful. And if you like this line of figures, get this guy, or if you just like the Hygogg in general, I heard it is beautiful. But now, let's end it off. And as a whole, we have a nice mobile suit that sadly was introduced too late to make a difference. Sadly, UMP was too late to turn the tides of the war. Even with having an amazing track record of mobile suits, UMP was just a bit too late to the party. But damn, I do wonder what could come out if other mobile suits got thrown in. What other amphibious mobile suits would Zeon give the UMP treatment? Possibilities are endless. I would love to see the Zog for just the shits and giggles. But with all that being said, if you haven't dozed off yet or just knocked out from too much eggnog, go watch War in the Pocket, please. Do it for the holiday season. Do it because it's an amazing anime. Or just do it for the Hygogg since he deserves it. But now, thank you for watching. Happy holidays to all, and to all a Merry Christmas. And for everyone that's watching past the holidays, it makes no difference, so thank you as well. And I hope to see you all next time. But till then, I'm Sloth Cakes and have a good one.